The wind that whips off Lake Michigan in late November doesn't just make you cold. It feels personal. It hunts for the gaps in your coat, the holes in your shoes, and the cracks in your spirit. For Liam, a 22-year-old architecture student living on the frayed edges of Chicago, the wind was just another reminder that he was losing the battle. He stood on the corner of 5th and Main. His hands were buried deep in the pockets of a denim jacket that had seen better decades. His fingers brushed against the only things he had left in the world. A crumpled $5 bill, 3 quarters, and a penny. That was it. That was his net worth. His stomach gave a violent, cramping growl, loud enough to be heard over the passing traffic. He hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. The tuition fees, the textbooks, the rent that was already 3 weeks late. It had swallowed everything. He was studying to build skyscrapers, yet he was days away from living under a bridge. He turned toward the neon glow of Sal's diner. The smell of frying onions and griddled beef drifted out. Thick, heavy, it was a siren song. Liam pushed open the door, the bell jingling a cheerful tune that felt mocking. He ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a plain burger, no cheese, no fries, just meat and bread. When the waitress handed him the grease-stained paper bag, he held it like it was a gold bar. The warmth radiating from the bag seeped into his frozen palms. This was his lifeline. Liam walked back out into the biting cold, heading toward the subway station. He intended to eat it on the platform, away from the wind. But then he heard it. A whimper, low, guttural, and filled with a despair that matched his own. He stopped. In the shadow of a dumpster nestled between black trash bags was a heap of matted fur. It was a dog, a golden retriever mix, though it was hard to tell through the grime. The animal was shaking so violently that its teeth clicked together. Liam took a step closer. The dog flinched, trying to press itself into the brick wall, expecting a kick. Its ribs pushed against its skin like the hull of a starving ship. Liam looked at the burger in his hand. The smell was intoxicating. His body screamed at him to eat. You need this. His survival instinct whispered. You are starving. You matter more. Then the dog looked up. Its eyes were a deep, soulful amber, clouded with fear but flickering with a tiny, desperate hope. It let out a soft whine, its tail giving a single, weak thump against the frozen pavement. Liam felt a lump form in his throat that had nothing to do with hunger. He looked at the burger. He looked at the dog. He knew what it felt like to be invisible, to be cold, to be hungry while the world walked by. Hey there, buddy. Liam whispered, his voice cracking. Rough night for you too, huh? He knelt down on the icy concrete. The cold soaked instantly through his jeans. He unwrapped the paper. The steam rose up, carrying the scent of salvation. The dog's nose twitched, but it didn't lunge. It just watched him, respectful and sad. I can't believe I'm doing this, Liam muttered. He broke the burger in half. Then he looked at the dog's trembling frame. He sighed, a long exhale of white mist, and he placed the entire burger on the ground. Go on, take it. The dog hesitated, looking at Liam for permission. Then devoured the food in 3 bites. It licked the wrapper clean. Then it did something that broke Liam's heart completely. It dragged its heavy body forward and rested its chin on Liam's knee. Liam reached out, burying his hand in the dirty fur. The dog leaned into his touch, starving for affection just as much as food. I don't have anything else, pal, Liam whispered, tears pricking his eyes. I don't have a home for much longer either. But as he stood up to leave, the dog scrambled up. It wouldn't let him go. It limped after him, pressing against his leg. Liam looked down at the creature. He couldn't leave it here to freeze. Even if they both starved, at least they wouldn't be alone. All right, Liam said, zipping his jacket. Come on, let's go home. The walk back to Liam's basement apartment was a blur of shivering and exhaustion. He had to sneak the dog past the sleeping landlady, Mrs. Gable, who had a strict no-pets policy to go along with her strict pay-me-or-get-out policy. Once inside the tiny, damp room, the reality of the situation set in. The apartment was barely bigger than a closet. A mattress on the floor, a drafting table covered in blueprints, and a single flickering bulb. Welcome to the penthouse. Liam joked weakly. The dog didn't mind. It circled the mattress 3 times and collapsed with a heavy sigh of gratitude. Liam filled a cracked bowl with tap water. The dog lapped it up noisily. Now that they were in the light, Liam could see the state of the poor thing. The fur was tangled with mud and oil. There was a nasty gash on its hind leg. Let's get you cleaned up. He used his last bar of soap and a bucket of warm water. He spent the next hour gently scrubbing the grime away. The water turned black, but beneath the filth, a beautiful golden coat began to shine. As Liam scrubbed the dog's neck, his fingers brushed against something hard. A collar. It had been so buried under the matted fur and mud that he hadn't seen it in the alley. It wasn't a normal nylon strap. It was thick, heavy leather, looking old and expensive. But it was the tag that caught Liam's eye. It wasn't the usual aluminum circle. It was a heavy, rectangular plate made of tarnished brass, bolted directly onto the leather. Liam grabbed a rag and polished the brass plate. Slowly, letters began to emerge. Barnaby. So, your name is Barnaby. The dog thumped his tail at the sound of his name, but there was more. Beneath the name, there wasn't a phone number. There was an inscription engraved in a fancy, flowing script. Return to 1402 Blackwood Estate, Lake Forest. Reward upon safe return. Liam stared at the address, Lake Forest. That was the wealthiest district in the state. It was miles away, a place of iron gates, manicured lawns, and old money, a place where people like Liam only went to fix the plumbing or trim the hedges. You're a long way from home, Barnaby, Liam murmured. He turned the collar over. On the inside of the leather, hidden against the dog's neck, was another line of text, smaller, almost worn away. Liam had to squint to read it under the dim bulb. For the one who sees the soul, not the dirt. A chill ran down Liam's spine. It felt less like a lost and found tag and more like a riddle. Why was a dog from a mansion eating garbage in the city? Had he run away? Was he stolen? Liam looked at Barnaby. The dog was now curled up on the only pillow, fast asleep. He looked peaceful. Liam sat back against the cold wall. His stomach cramped again. A sharp reminder of his sacrifice. He had $0. He had an eviction notice taped to his door, and now he had a dog that belonged to millionaires. A cynical thought crossed his mind. Reward. The tag said reward. Rich people paid hundreds, maybe thousands for their lost purebreds. This could be it. This could be the rent money. This could be food. But looking at Barnaby, Liam felt a protective surge. He wasn't going to just hand him over to anyone. If these people let their dog get into this condition, they didn't deserve him. But the inscription. For the one who sees the soul. We're going to take a trip tomorrow, Barnaby. Liam whispered into the darkness. We're going to find out who you really are. The next morning, Liam used his emergency jar of pennies to pay for the train ticket out to the suburbs. He had to plead with the conductor to let Barnaby on board, claiming the dog was a service animal. Barnaby, sensing the tension, sat perfectly still. The landscape changed rapidly outside the window. The gray concrete and graffiti of the city gave way to rolling green hills, autumn trees blazing with orange and red, and fences that cost more than Liam's entire education. They got off at the Lake Forest station and walked. It was a 3-mile hike to the address on the collar. Liam's sneakers were thin, and the gravel crunching underfoot reminded him of how out of place he was here. Finally, they reached 1402 Blackwood Estate. It wasn't a house. It was a fortress. Massive wrought iron gates towered over them, blocking a driveway that disappeared into a tunnel of oak trees. Liam swallowed hard. He reached out and pressed the intercom button, a crackle of static. Then a voice, sharp, impatient. Deliveries go to the side entrance. The service road is a mile back. I'm not a delivery, Liam said, leaning into the speaker. I found a dog. His tag says he lives here. Silence, long, heavy silence. Wait there. The voice snapped. 5 minutes later, the gates didn't open. Instead, a black luxury sedan rolled down the driveway and stopped just behind the bars. The window rolled down. A man in his 40s sat in the driver's seat. He wore a suit that shimmered in the sunlight. His face was pinched as if he smelled something bad. This was Marcus. Marcus looked at Liam. He looked at his worn shoes, his messy hair. Then he looked at Barnaby. That, Marcus sneered, you brought that mongrel here. Barnaby let out a low growl, pressing his body against Liam's leg. His name is Barnaby, Liam said, his voice firming up, and his collar says he belongs here. Barnaby ran away 6 months ago. Marcus said, checking his manicured fingernails. My late uncle's foolish beast. We assumed he was dead. Honestly, it was for the best. The thing is a nuisance. Liam felt a flash of anger. He was starving in an alley. I fed him. I cleaned him up. If you're the owner, you should be grateful. Marcus laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. Owner, I am the executor of the estate now, and I don't recall asking for a stray to be returned. You probably stole him hoping for a payout. That's the oldest trick in the book for people like you. He waved a hand dismissively. Leave the dog. Get off my property. There is no reward for bringing back trash. I'm not leaving him with you. Liam said, gripping Barnaby's collar. You don't care about him. Excuse me. Marcus's face turned red. I am calling the police. I'll have you arrested for theft and trespassing. Tie the dog to the gate and run along, boy, before I ruin your life. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. He was terrified. A police record would end his architecture career before it began, but he looked down at Barnaby. The dog was looking up at him, trusting him completely. No, Liam said. He turned around to walk away. I'm keeping him. Wait. A booming voice echoed from the speaker box on the gate pillar. It wasn't Marcus. It was deeper. Older. Open the gate, Marcus. Immediately, Marcus looked startled. He glared at the intercom. Mr. Henderson, I handle these matters. Open it. The voice commanded. The massive iron gates groaned and began to swing inward. Marcus looked furious, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Liam stood his ground, his hand resting on Barnaby's head. He didn't know who Mr. Henderson was, but he knew one thing. He wasn't leaving this dog behind. Liam walked up the long, winding driveway with the black sedan creeping slowly behind him like a shark. The estate was breathtaking, but Liam was too tense to admire the architecture. Standing on the front steps was an elderly man leaning on a cane. He wore a three-piece tweed suit. This was Mr. Henderson, the family lawyer. As Liam approached, Barnaby's ears perked up. The dog let out a happy bark and pulled toward the old man. "Hello, old friend," Mr. Henderson said softly. His eyes weren't on Liam. They were fixed on the dog. Barnaby trotted up the steps and nuzzled the lawyer's hand. Marcus slammed his car door and marched up the stairs. "This is ridiculous, Henderson. The kid is obviously a grifter. Look at him. He probably found the dog in a dump and brought him here to extort us." Mr. Henderson ignored Marcus. He looked at Liam. "Young man, what is your name?" Liam Miller, and tell me, Liam," the lawyer said, his eyes sharp and assessing. "How did you find him?" Liam took a breath. He didn't try to make it sound heroic. He just told the truth. "He was behind Sal's diner in the city. He was starving. I gave him my dinner." "Your dinner?" Marcus scoffed. "A $2 burger. How noble. It was all I had." Liam said quietly, "I didn't have money for anything else." The lawyer's expression softened. "You gave your last meal to a stranger's dog." Liam shrugged, looking down at his worn sneakers. "He looked like he needed it more than I did. He was shaking." Mr. Henderson nodded slowly. "Marcus, be quiet." "Liam, please come inside. There is something you need to hear." They entered the grand library. It was filled with the smell of old paper and mahogany. A large portrait hung over the fireplace, a painting of a kind-faced man sitting with Barnaby. That was Arthur Blackwood. Mr. Henderson said, "He passed away 6 months ago. He had no children. Marcus here is his nephew." Marcus crossed his arms. "And as his only living relative, I am the sole heir." "This charade is a waste of time, not the sole heir," Mr. Henderson corrected. He walked over to a massive desk and picked up a sealed document. Arthur was a peculiar man. He believed that character was the only currency that mattered. When he died, he left a very specific instruction regarding Barnaby. Marcus rolled his eyes. "The dog ran away the day Arthur died. Did he?" Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow. "Or did you open the gate and chase him out because you didn't want the burden?" Marcus turned pale. He escaped. Arthur knew you, Marcus. He knew you only cared about the money. So, he created a test. He stipulated that the inheritance would remain in a trust until Barnaby was returned." The lawyer opened the document. The paper crinkled in the silent room. "The will states, if Barnaby is returned by a hired hand or for a simple cash reward, the finder receives $5,000. If Barnaby is returned by someone who showed him cruelty, they receive nothing." Mr. Henderson looked at Liam. "But if Barnaby is returned by someone who cared for him at his own expense, someone who treated him as a living soul when he had nothing to gain, then that person has proven they have the heart to manage my legacy." Marcus stepped forward, his voice trembling with rage. "You can't be serious. You're going to give money to this beggar?" "Liam," Mr. Henderson said, ignoring. "The nephew, please unbuckle the collar." Liam knelt down. His hands were shaking. He undid the buckle and handed the heavy leather strap to the lawyer. Mr. Henderson pressed a small hidden catch on the back of the brass plate. The plate clicked open. Inside was a small, glittering key. "This key," Mr. Henderson said, his voice thick with emotion, "opens the safety deposit box containing the deed to this estate, and the liquid assets totaling $40 million. The room went dead silent. The ticking of the grandfather clock sounded like thunder. Marcus looked like he had been punched in the stomach. $40 million? This is insanity. I'll contest this. I'll sue. You can try," Mr. Henderson said icily, but Arthur filmed his will. He was very clear. "You chased the dog out, Marcus. We have the security footage from that night. You failed the test. Security is waiting to escort you off the premises." 2 large men in suits stepped out from the shadows of the hallway. Marcus looked at them, then at Liam, then at the money he had just lost. He stormed out, cursing the dog, the uncle, and the world. Liam stood there, stunned. He looked at the ornate ceiling, then down at his dirty flannel shirt. I don't understand. I just wanted him to be safe. I don't want the money." Mr. Henderson smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "That is exactly why you deserve it, Liam. Arthur didn't want a businessman. He wanted a human being." The lawyer walked over and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "The money is yours. The house is yours, but there is a condition." Liam looked up. "What is it?" "You must promise to take care of Barnaby for the rest of his life." Liam looked down at the dog. Barnaby was wagging his tail, oblivious to the fact that he was worth millions. He just wanted a belly rub. Liam dropped to his knees and hugged the dog. "That's the easy part," he whispered. 6 months later, the wind was still blowing off Lake Michigan, but Liam didn't feel it anymore. He stood outside a newly renovated brick building in downtown Chicago. It wasn't a skyscraper, it was a shelter. Above the door, a new sign hung, the Blackwood Center for Strays. Liam wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing jeans and a work shirt covered in sawdust. He was finishing his architecture degree, but his final project wasn't a corporate tower. It was this: a sanctuary designed to be warm, welcoming, and safe for every animal that had been forgotten by the world. He walked inside. The lobby was bustling. In the center of the room, lying on a plush orthopedic bed, was Barnaby. His coat was thick and golden, shining with health. He was the king of the castle. Liam walked over and scratched Barnaby behind the ears. "We did good, buddy," Liam said softly. He thought back to that night in the alley, the hunger, the cold, the choice to give away his last burger. People told him he was lucky. They said he won the lottery, but Liam knew the truth. The money didn't save him. The compassion did. The money was just a tool. The kindness was the architect. He looked out the window at the city he used to fear. Now he saw potential. He saw hope. "Come on, Barnaby," Liam said, grabbing a leash. "Let's go for a walk. I think there's a burger place around the corner. My treat. Thanks for watching. If this story warmed your heart, please subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories of kindness and hope."